1903. A small bear cub was given as a partial payment to a manufacturer named Mr. Carruthers. He went to live with Mr. and Mrs. Carruthers and stayed in their front yard, tied to a tree. He stayed there until Mrs. Carruthers had some issues with Natch and her garden. The baseball team, the Memphis Turtles, took him on as mascot. In 1905, it was decided that Natch would have a new home in Overton Park, and he was chained to a tree that was just outside the Overton Park Pavilion. While he was there, guests started to come have visits to see Natch. Other animals started being left at the park as well. In 1906, a Colonel Robert Galloway said something needs to be done to take care of and provide for these animals. He gathered a petition of over 2,000 names, and since he was head of the Parks Commission, he presented this petition and it passed. That's where the story of the Memphis Zoo begins. The present is just one side. The past is another side, and having them both, you can see a clear picture. The start of the archive story room began in 2018. I was presented with a bookshelf of some old binders, and it had loose newspaper articles, whole newspaper articles, the first animal building, the elephant house, the carnivora building, all the things that we have in our archives. That is the identity of the zoo. Now, Monkey Island, we happen to have a copy of the dedication ceremony leaflet that talks about the opening of it and it being a works administration project. Another interesting thing that I found was that the first female Memphis zookeeper worked in the kiddie zoo. Sometimes you forget that things we take for granted had a starting place. And the aquarium building was one of the first buildings in Memphis to have nice, pleasant air conditioning.
I began volunteering here early 1972. It started with an article that appeared in the Commercial Appeal. Mr. James Cortese was a reporter. He had the column called Your Zoo. He was commenting about people throwing rocks and other antisocial behavior with the animals. That article was seen by a young woman, Donna Fisher, who at the time was a student at Vanderbilt. She and her mother decided they could do something about it. They announced that we would like to form an organization of just people to come out and just be around the zoo and watch out for those kind of incidents. The zoo director at the time, Mr. Matlin, made the comment that, well, we should start an organization of volunteers, educators, which are known as docents. We began to give tours primarily to school children and to other groups, senior groups and so forth. That is pretty much how we got started.
Well, the zoo's first master plan that was initiated in 1986 was the beginning of the big expansion of our zoo. One of the first major changes at the zoo that I was aware of was the building of the gate. The distinctive Egyptian facade and the colors are all very accurate in the hieroglyphics. And even the Avenue of Animals was patterned after the Avenue of Sphinx. Well, cat country, of course, was the most anticipated new thing at the zoo, so everybody was very excited about that. And in the 90s, things after that began to happen pretty quickly. The zoo became bigger and better and more educational.
Of course, the arrival of the pandas. In fact, when they opened the exhibit, I happened to be with Charles Wilson, who at that time was the zoo director. And I told him, I said, this just never occurred to me that we could actually do this. You're part of an institution that's gone back 125 years and is going to keep going if we have anything to say about it.
As a docent, I see what goes on in terms of research and conservation. And now as an archivist, I kind of get a look behind the mirror. If even one box had been thrown away when the library was renovated, there would have been a missing piece of the puzzle. And I'm very proud to consider myself and the team that works with me guardians of those memories, because it needs guardians. You can never work on reflecting on your own identity enough. Even if it's the Memphis Zoo's identity, it will always continue. It will always be reflected on. It will just be.